Hello and welcome back to the William Gomes podcast. I am William Gomes and I'm grateful to have you here. Today we explore one of the most intriguing and foundational ideas in Lacanian psychoanalysis. It is an idea that sits quietly at the heart of desire, shaping our longings, our hopes, our relationships, and our frustrations, often without our awareness. Lacan called it Objet Petit. At first, the phrase sounds abstract, but what it points to is something deeply human, something that touches each one of us in our everyday emotional life. In this episode, we will take our time with this idea. We will explore what object petit A means, how it forms, how it sustains desire, and how it moves through relationships, creativity, and the intimate parts of our sense of self. The goal is not to master a theory, but to understand something about the structure of our own longing, something about why desire never fully settles, something about what keeps us reaching, imagining, and searching throughout our lives. To begin, imagine desire as a movement rather than a destination. Desire does not point to a simple object, it stretches towards something that always seems to sit just out of reach. When a child wants a toy, when an adult longs for recognition or intimacy, when someone dreams of a certain life, the object they focus on is not the true cause of their desire. It is a stand in, a surface, a screen. What stirs desire is not the object itself, but something in the object, something that cannot be touched or held, something that gives the object its power to attract, to fascinate, to glow with possibility. That something is what Lacan called objet petit a. It is not the object of desire, but the spark inside the object that awakens desire. It is the quality that makes the object feel unique or precious, even if the quality cannot be named directly. If you take away that spark, the object becomes ordinary. But when the spark is present, the object becomes saturated with imagination and longing. To understand where objet petit A comes from, we need to return to early childhood. In the mirror stage, the child identifies with an image of themselves that appears whole and complete. This image gives the child a sense of unity that they do not yet feel inside. The child internalizes this image and begins to build a sense of self around it. At the same time, the child turns toward the caregiver, seeking recognition, meaning, and love. The child senses that the other holds something that they lack, something that promises coherence. These early identifications shape desire. They create small images or small others that become templates for future fantasies. Over time, different people, objects, or experiences are inscribed with these early emotional traces. They become screens for longing. They carry the glow of something imagined, something desired. They become receptacles for objet petit I. But objet petit A is not the image or the object itself. It is the invisible quality we project onto the object. It is the imaginary fragment that gives the object its allure. Every person has their own collection of these fragments shaped by early relational experiences, by fantasies, by gaps in emotional life, and by the unique way desire unfolds within them. Objet petit A also has a connection to the ways in which we relate to parts of the body. Early in childhood, the body teaches the child about closeness and separation, about gaining and losing. Through experiences like feeding, toilet learning, or exploring intimacy, the child discovers that some aspect of the body can be given, withheld, lost, or controlled. The early experience form a language of part objects. They become emotional templates that help the child understand presence, absence, pleasure, and frustration. As adults, certain objects or qualities carry echoes of these early experiences. An object that can be kept, exchanged, or lost, can become charged with desire, not because the object is inherently meaningful, but because it reflects something of the emotional pattern the child once learned. It becomes a vessel for the leftover spark of desire. An object of wealth may feel reassuring, not simply because of its practical value, but because it symbolizes a feeling of security or mastery that belongs to much earlier emotional life. An object may feel thrilling to acquire or painful to lose because it carries this inner spark. The spark is the objet petit A. Another essential dimension of Objet Petit A comes from the child's discovery that no one is complete. The child eventually realizes that the caregiver does not possess a mysterious power that holds the world together. This realization breaks the illusion of completeness and introduces the child to the fact that everyone is lacking something. The sense of a perfect, unified object vanishes. In its place remains a fragment, a trace of something that once felt complete but now cannot be reached. That fragment is what fuels desire. It appears throughout life in many forms. It might appear in admiration for someone who seems confident or powerful. It might appear in attraction for someone with a certain charm or presence. It might appear in a fascination with beauty, speed, intelligence, or creativity. The person or object becomes desirable because it carries the trace of something we feel we have lost, even if we never possessed it in the first place. The desire is not for the object itself, but for the fragment of imagined completeness the object seems to hold. This idea may sound abstract, but it becomes very clear when we reflect on relationships. In relationships, we are not simply drawn to another person because of who they are. We are drawn to something in them, something that feels precious, mysterious, or captivating, something that awakens longing, something that feels like a missing piece. But no person can actually be that missing piece. They can carry the spark, but they cannot fill the gap. This is why desire always moves. It never fully settles. It shifts, transforms, and renews itself. In relationships, we may desire to possess this spark, or we may desire to be that spark for someone else. We may want to be the person who completes another, who brings them meaning or joy. These movements come from the structure of desire, not from the actual qualities of the people involved. When the spark fades or shifts, people sometimes feel confused. They think the relationship has changed. But what has changed is the place of Objet Petit A, the location of the spark. Desire has moved. Objet Petit A also drives creativity. When someone paints, writes, builds, or invents something, they are often reaching toward a feeling, a spark, or an idea that they cannot fully articulate. They are trying to bring something into the world that lies just beyond expression. The creative process is guided by a sense of something missing. The artist feels compelled, drawn, pulled by an invisible thread. When they complete a piece, the satisfaction may be brief. The spark moves again. A new desire emerges. Creativity continues because Objet Petit A keeps the process alive. This idea also helps us understand why some people become driven by ambition. They may pursue status, wealth, influence, or mastery with great intensity. Yet, even when they achieve what they set out to do, something often feels incomplete. The object achieved does not satisfy the longing. The longing was never for the object, it was for the spark projected onto it. Objet Petit keeps ambition alive because it cannot be possessed, it can only be approached. Objet Petit A also helps us understand why people can become fixated on qualities rather than objects. Someone may be drawn to a person's confidence, intelligence, kindness, or charisma, they may idealize these qualities, imagining that by being close to the person, they will somehow share in that precious spark. But these qualities are not the true object of desire. They are carriers, screens. They hold the shine of the spark temporarily until desire shifts again. This shifting nature of desire means that Objet Petit A cannot be found in any solid or permanent form. It cannot be captured, possessed, or held tightly. It is, by nature, elusive, and yet it is essential. Without it, desire would collapse. There would be no longing, no curiosity, no emotional movement. Objet Petit A is the engine that keeps desire alive. Lacan once described Objet Petit A as something that stands in for what was lost when we entered the world of language. Before language, we lived in a world of sensations without separation. Once we enter the symbolic, we gain meaning, but we lose a kind of immediacy. That lost immediacy leaves a trace, a mark, a gap. Objet Petit A represents this gap. It also helps us understand why desire is never satisfied. When someone believes that acquiring a certain object or achieving a certain goal will bring lasting fulfillment, they are imagining that the object contains the spark of completeness. But desire does not work like that. The moment the object is possessed, the spark moves. This is why people often feel restless even after achieving what they thought they wanted. Desire is not satisfied by objects, it is sustained by the movement toward the spark. Objet Petit A also appears in moments of attraction. When we find ourselves captivated by someone, we often cannot explain why. The attraction does not come from their appearance alone or even their personality. It comes from the spark we sense in them, the fragment they seem to carry. This spark is not theirs. It belongs to our own structure of desire. They simply carry it temporarily for us. Let us consider how Objet Petit A relates to enjoyment. Enjoyment is not the same as pleasure. Enjoyment can involve intensity, tension, or even discomfort. When someone is drawn to a particular pursuit, even if it is difficult or exhausting, it may be because the pursuit carries the spark of Objet Petit. The struggle becomes meaningful, the effort becomes energizing. The journey becomes more important than the destination. This happens because the spark keeps the movement alive. At times, Objet Petit A can become attached to objects that bring distress. Someone may become fixated on something that creates anxiety, insecurity, or frustration. They want it, but it also unsettles them. This is not a contradiction. It reflects the structure of desire. Desire is not necessarily peaceful or harmonious. Desire involves tension. It involves longing. It involves the feeling that something is missing. Objet Petit A intensifies this feeling because it cannot be obtained. Understanding Objet Petit A can offer profound insights into our emotional lives. It helps us recognize that longing is not a sign of inadequacy. It is part of being human. It helps us make sense of the fact that satisfaction is often temporary. It helps us understand why relationships can feel both nourishing and incomplete. It helps us approach ourselves with compassion, knowing that desire is not meant to resolve neatly. As we move toward the close of this episode, let us reflect on the beauty of this idea. Objet Petit reminds us that life is not about finding a final answer to desire. It is about engaging with the movement of desire itself. It is about listening to the spark that guides us, even when the spark changes shape. It is about recognizing that the mystery at the heart of desire is not a flaw, but a source of vitality, a source of Creativity is source of connection. The spark of desire keeps us alive to the world. It keeps us open to others. It keeps us curious and engaged. Object Petit A is the trace of what makes us human, the sign that we are always becoming, always reaching, always moving toward something that cannot be fully named. In our next episode, we will explore the concept of fantasy, which plays a vital role in giving shape to desire and offering a frame through which object petit A becomes meaningful. Fantasy protects us from the rawness of desire, but it also reveals the structure of our longings. It is through fantasy that we understand why we want what we want. For now, I hope this episode helps you recognize the movements of desire in your own life and to treat those movements with gentleness. Desire is not something to master, it is something to listen to. Thank you for listening. This is the William Gomes podcast. Take care of yourself, stay curious, and I will speak with you again soon.